Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show. I'm your host, Lee Martin, and here's our co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine. How are you doing today, Florence?
I'm doing well, Lee, and it is an honor to have our special guest on the show this morning. We've got Dr. Carolyn Peters from Ohio with us today. So Dr. Peters, how are you doing today?
I am absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Florence. Thank you all for having me today.
It's a pleasure. Now, we first want to talk a little bit about NFB Newsline, the free audio information service. So tell me a little bit about how you use NFB Newsline.
Well, I use NFB Newsline on my phone. So I have this app that's really accessible. And whenever I need something, all I have to do is tell Siri to tap into it. So with all this technology today, it's very easy to utilize the services for NFB Newsline. And also with the Alexa app as well. And I have to be careful because she's always talking when I call her name.
Like Dr. Peters, I prefer using my iPhone app to access NFB Newsline. We can also access it through the A-Lady, as she mentioned. There's the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library. There's the computer. And there's the Victor Reader Stream, which also gives us access to the free audio information service. In addition to that, Lee, what I really like about NFB Newsline, there's something for everybody. So there's a kids corner for children. There's senior publications for seniors. So basically we have everybody covered on NFB Newsline who's interested in the service. And one other thing is the KNFB Reader. We also have access to the basic KNFB Reader, where we can read our documents, we can read our mail, whatever comes in. We can get access. If there's a recipe that we want to just read, we can use our KNFB Reader for that too. So NFB Newsline is doing some awesome things.
Yes, that's a great piece of technology there with the KNFB Reader 3.0 Basic. So we would highly recommend that, and that is free, So we're trying to make it so that individuals can have access to information other than just newspapers, magazines, TV guide listings, weather reports, and job listings. There's a plethora of things that NFB Newsline allows blind and print challenged citizens to use right at the fingertips instantaneously. So we're going to take a short pause for the calls, and we'll be right back with Dr. Peters.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduced the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline. We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to this segment of the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. As mentioned earlier, we have an honored guest, Dr. Carolyn Peters from Ohio. And Dr. Peters, again, we'd like to say welcome to our show. And also, what we would like to know is about you, your journey before blindness, your journey after blindness. So let's start with your journey prior to. So tell us a little bit about you, Dr. Peters.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Monroe, Georgia, and my family kind of migrated to Dayton because of jobs in the 50s. And when I was born, I had a birth defect in my right eye. So basically, I've been one-sighted all my life. Graduated from high school, went to college, Central State University, and then I started working as a social worker. And I acquired my master's degree later in life. I think I was about 40 years old then. But I have been involved in social work all my career. And therefore, that brought me into the organization of the National Association of Social Workers, where I was the local regional director in the Dayton region. And then I became the president of the state of Ohio. And after that, I became the president of Chapter President's Council at the national level. And I think I was the second one in the Midwest region to acquire that position. And in that position entailed being the chairperson over all chapter presidents across the United States, international, and Guam at the time we were having a chapter in formation. So I did international work as well. So that was a real interesting part of my career. And then, of course, I was the executive director of Mary Scott Nursing Center, which was one of 6 African-American owned facilities in the United States. So that was another challenge that was presented to me, and was very successful in that. But I enjoyed working as a social worker in schools and in hospitals. I was a medical social worker when I retired, and a school social worker.
Dr. Peters, along this particular journey of yours, you received numerous awards. You want to share with us some of the awards that you received? I think they're very illuminating.
Oh, thank you. I have received the Social Worker of the Year award for the region. I received it for the state. Lifetime Achievement Awards. Just several awards. Can't even name all of them. Community awards. It's kind of impressive, but it's a lot of hard work, and I really appreciated those honors. I'm kind of humble. I don't brag about those kind of things, but they are in existence, and they are encouraging to people that others actually see your accomplishments and they value what you do. So being of service is important to me, and I appreciate the accolades.
Now, at what point were you introduced to the National Federation of the Blind?
Well, this was later in life when I, around age 55. Like I said, I was one-sided all my life, and, my family didn't treat me any differently. I just couldn't see out of one eye. But what had happened, I had made a trip to Atlanta to visit some cousins, which I normally do. I would do that every year. And I drove down, and one of my cousins and I had went to the mountains, and evidently my eyes hemorrhaged. They started to hemorrhage. And that's when it really started affecting my right eye, and then ultimately my left eye. Capillaries start to burst everywhere in my eyes, and that's when I was first diagnosed. Having oh gosh, I can't think of the name of it now. But anyway, I started losing my vision, and then I had a couple of surgeries, and my right eye actually collapsed. It was not a healthy eye, but it actually collapsed, though it was totally blind. And then I started losing vision gradually on a yearly basis, line by line, seemed like, in my left eye. But then after that, a few years, maybe two, I was introduced to the NFB, which of course at the time I wasn't interested. My focus was trying to, how am I going to deal with it? And then coming to terms with it, and then deciding, oh, well, maybe, I can do this, because I had someone that actually would call me and talk to me about the NFB. So I finally decided to take the opportunity to go to a meeting. And that's how I was introduced to the National Federation of the Blind. And that was in 2012.
Okay. And do you believe that in 2012 is when you actually came to terms with the condition of blindness, or do you feel that it was a gradual thing?
No, it was a gradual thing, because I started losing my vision in 2004. In 2006, I was diagnosed as legally blind. And from that point on, I was really concerned because, I wasn't able to work as, effectively as I had been. So gradually, I was introduced to state rehabilitation services. And for 2 years, I started utilizing those programs, learning mobility and that kind of thing, so that I could maintain my employment. And then in 2008, I decided to retire, because working with people, it was important to me to, know facial expressions. And that was kind of difficult for me. It was a real challenge. And then after I retired, I decided, well, if I can't, do this for myself, I can certainly advocate for others. And during that period, from 2005 to 7, I acquired a doctor's degree in theology. It was something that I wanted to do for myself personally, and not realizing the benefits of having that degree.
Well, Dr. Peters, we're going to take a short pause for the cause and come back and talk a little bit more about your journey and your successful journey, as I might ask, from the transition of into blindness. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
I use NFB Newsline when reading Hammond Northwest Times.
Using NFB Newsline, I read the Christian Science magazine.
Dad, you read Jerusalem Post, too.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Live the life you want. Read NFB Newsline.
It's free.
We want to welcome you back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline Indiana show, where we have our honorable guest, Dr. Carolyn Peters. Dr. Peters, let's continue on with your reality.
I would like to know, how was the support from your family, or how did your family cope with your blindness?
Well, when it first started, in 2004, 2005, my mother was like my caregiver. She helped me a lot through that transition. And then when I was diagnosed as legally blind, my mother passed. She died of cancer. And that made my challenge even harder than I ever imagined. But my sister, my brother, and I have two wonderful sons, and they all kind of helped me out through that transition. And as a matter of fact, when I decided I wanted to get my doctorate degree, that was a challenge in itself. Even the seminary was challenged with, having someone blind there. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? And my sons actually read all my textbooks and recorded them on tape. And when I started, finishing that program and, got my doctorate degree, I decided to turn my thesis into a book because it was actually a chronological idea of all the things I had went through and how I managed to go through it with the help of my faith. And my whole family jumped in. My niece was, drawing pictures, her, my son, and so everybody was researching different things and helping me out. So the family really came together because I was the only one that was having vision problems. Nobody in my family had blindness. I talked to a few cousins that were older, and it was just not there in the family tree. So there were a lot of things going on, but blindness was not one of them. So my family was very supportive, and my friends, my church. As a social worker, I gathered my colleagues together and developed my own plan. And that's how I executed, different services and tried to, manage my way through this.
But Dr. Peters, there along this particular journey, you indicated that you faced some other trials and tribulations as a woman and facing abuse. You want to share a little bit about that?
And that's the really unfortunate piece of it. But I tell you, out of a crisis in anyone's life, there's innovation in that crisis. Unfortunately, a few years ago, I was assaulted in my church by, someone that actually was not a member, but a visitor. And I was so taken aback. I could not believe it happened. The church wasn't ready for that. It just caused a lot of emotional stress and anxiety. And, I was able to get a restraining order and, had to go through all that whole process. And it was just horrifying. But, my faith was strong enough that I got through it until a couple of months ago, the person reappeared and I had post-traumatic stress. I had no idea that I had not dealt with it completely. So I'm still recovering from that. And I actually decided to go out, get spiritual counseling instead of the, regular counseling. Because, it kind of helped before, but I thought that didn't work for me. So I got to try something differently. So this time I did seek some spiritual guidance, and it's just a road to recovery. And blind people, all people with disabilities, or anyone, especially women, and it could be young boys and girls as well, that there is an evil force out there among us and they take advantage of you. And it's truly unfortunate because I wouldn't have never believed that anyone would take advantage of a blind person, and especially in a church setting. Somewhere that you feel, comfortable. I mean, you got to feel comfortable at home in church, but it didn't happen. Yeah, that was my safe place. And now, it became not so safe.
There are a lot of bad forces out there. There are people who just basically uh, they just aren't about the right when it comes to blindness, sight, or whatever the case might be. And in whatever way that you are dealing with this situation, I know that it's a very hard place for you, and I know that I'm a believer too, so I'm trusting that. Uh, that with everything that you're going through and everything that you have gone through, that he who began that good work, I know he's faithful to complete it because everything that's happened in your life, God has brought you through.
Oh, yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about where you are now, also in your transition as far as employment. Some wonderful things have happened as I hear it.
Oh, yeah. I really, truly feel blessed. As I stated, I retired in 2008. And I did continue to look for employment. And it got to the point where, it was close to retirement age. So I decided, well, just being on disability was not enough. But then I thought, well, why not? I can advocate for other people. And I was presented an opportunity from our governor, who was John Kasich at the time, to serve as a commissioner with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. So I accepted that challenge, and I'm really appreciative to that. I'm the only person with a visible disability on the commission. There are 5 commissioners in the state of Ohio. So that was an honor to be, appointed to that position. And then in the same breath, I was also appointed to our state rehabilitation council. We had a commission in the past, but the legislators wanted to do something different. So now, being appointed to that position in 2018, I accepted it for a year, and I was elected to chair that council out of 17 members across the state of Ohio. And then I was reappointed by the current governor, Mike DeWine, and I was reelected again by acclamation to chair this council. So that has been really important to me because I represent 88 counties in the state of Ohio. And with this council, we have, started from grassroots and now we're evolving. So we're going into our 3rd year and we've made a lot of strides. So it's been good for me and good for people with disabilities in the state of Ohio.
Well, Dr. Peters, I tell you, you have shared with us so much valuable information, going from the, your sighted world to your blindness and overcoming these obstacles. And you certainly are a prime example that there is life after blindness. You kind of mentioned to us, and we want to talk about it briefly, is about your experience with your first convention at the National Federation of the Blind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I when I joined the National Federation of the Blind, that was in 2012 at my local chapter. In 2013 was my first convention. And, it was a challenge, do I go with somebody? Do I go by myself? I had not traveled by air, bus, or train since I had lost my vision alone. So therefore, I decided, I'm going to take this challenge. So I went to the convention by myself, met wonderful people like you and others. And I tell you, I've never seen so many canes and guide dogs in my life in one place. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And it really encouraged me because I figured if they can do this, I know I can. And it was a wonderful experience to be at that convention. There were over 3,000 people there. And as a result of that, I've grown within the Federation. I serve as a treasurer at the national level for the communities of faith. I've been invited to speak for underserved population. I've just had a lot of opportunities. And now I'm involved with Black Leaders Serving for Advancement. And at my local chapter, or my state affiliate, we just approved a new division for communities of faith for the state of Ohio. So there have been a lot of good things that have happened, and it's all for the benefit of others, to help people wherever they are in life, whatever the challenge may be, that there's someone there for them. And we've all been there at one part of our journey, we've all overcome something. So there are people that are like-minded and that can assist in any way.
And Dr. Peters, now with your in your journey, also you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Yeah, the book is Knowing When to Go. It was based on the book of Ruth, and that was one of my favorite books. But it really chronologically identifies how I overcame, and that was, not my intent. But after putting the book together, I realized that's what I was doing. I was telling my story. And it was one of a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions, why this and why that? It was what, when, why, where, the whole thing. And with that book, it helped me get through my doctoral program. And, it's helped others that I've shared that book with. It just kind of speaks to how strong my faith was. There were times when it wasn't so strong, and how I overcame. And I did it through a lot of scriptures and just trying to seek and find things that were going to make my life more manageable at the time.
Well, Dr. Peters and Florence, I tell you, it's been a great conversation. And I tell you, we're going to have you come back and be our guest, because there's so much more information and so much more inspiration that you can share to our viewing and listening audience. Once again, Dr. Peters, we at the National Federation of the Blind of Indiana Newsline would like to thank you for coming on to our show, and want to also say to you, we want you to continue to be blessed as you bless so many others.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.